I just wanted to talk about the finish, the painted finish on the lamppost. That's really where most of the questions were. I did want to mention that if you didn't know, I was on the Woodworking Podcast. It came out Friday night with Jay Bates and Nick Ferry. Usually April Wilkinson is on the show, but I filled in as a guest and it was a lot of fun. I want to thank those guys for having me on the show. And if you want to listen to the show, I'll have a link to the podcast in the description. And if you did listen to the show and you were wondering what was the word that tripped me up so bad, it was discipline. And I'm not sure how that pertained to the question, but my train of thought was it takes discipline to do anything good, whether that's woodworking or artwork or video work. There's always work that you might not want to do, but you have to have the discipline to sort of just do it and do it well. So if you want to check that out, again, I'll have a link in the description. For the most part, when I'm working on projects outside, painted projects, I use Ready Patch for a wood fill. It's easy to use, it's easy to sand, and it's exterior. For a primer, I like Fresh Start by Benjamin Moore. This is a latex primer. Really any Sherwin-Williams would be fine. I just happen to go to a hardware store that is a Benjamin Moore dealer. For finish paint, More Glow, also by Benjamin Moore. And I always use Dove White. I use Dove White on all of my exterior trim and all of my interior trim. I just like to keep it simple. If I'm buying white, I know I'm buying Dove White. The material that I used around the base is AZEK. If you're not familiar with it, AZEK is like a PVC material. It's paintable and it's obviously rot resistant because it's a plastic. And I used it around the base because that was the only part of the project that was in ground contact, or contact with the stone. And I didn't want to use wood because I would be worried about the wood sucking moisture up from the stone. Why didn't I use AZEK for the whole lamppost? Because 2 years ago I built the lamppost. There's a project video on YouTube, and I made the whole thing out of AZEK. The reason why I used cedar is because I had the cedar left over from the kitchen build and I didn't want to spend any money. For the flat panels, I used marine plywood, and I had that left over from when I built the door for my dad's boat. So it's basically just using material that I had. Am I concerned about the knots bleeding through? Not really. Knots don't seem to bleed through cedar that much, not compared to pine. Most people think of pine, and knots bleed right through white paint when you're using knotty pine. And I really don't even think you should use knotty pine if you're going to paint it, because even though you can spot prime the knots with shellac-based bin primer, I feel like they still bleed through. So it might have been a good step to go and spot prime the knots, but I didn't have any of the bin primer, so I didn't. I could still go back and hit them if they do bleed through, but I don't think they will. And the last question is, did I use a GFCI outlet on the lamppost? And I did. Anytime you put an outlet outside, it needs to be GFCI. If you're putting an outlet in a bathroom, a kitchen, maybe even in a garage, it should be GFCI. So anywhere there could be possible moisture, you should have a GFCI outlet. I think that's about it. I will have a project video coming up on Sunday. If you want to get an idea of what that's going to be, check out my Instagram. I'll have a link in the description. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you soon.